Look at a kind of class picture. Can you pick out which ones will grow up to be school shooters? Almost 2/3 will be from two-parent homes. Nearly half of the kids will do well in school. 73% of them will never have been arrested before. And yet every child you see here will become a school shooter. In total, murdering 67 people. The child in this picture is Dylan Klebold. In her book, his mother writes, he wasn't the pinwheel-eyed portrait of evil we know from cartoons. He was shy, likable, with hands-on parents
who put them to bed with stories and prayers and hugs.
The Klebolds, the family who lived in this house in the foothills of the Rockies. Their 2 sons named after famous poets. Sue Klebold calls Dylan her shiny penny. In gifted classes, loved Little League, gave big hugs and kisses, and built tall ships out of Legos.
And he wouldn't just work on one puzzle. He'd dump them all into a big mountain so that he could solve 5 or 6 of them at the same time.
Sue Klebold says he was easily embarrassed, tearful and hard on himself if he made a mistake. He's shy heading into adolescence. He talked about looking weird.
He was a tall, gawky kid with glasses.
But he has friends, goes out to parties, Friday night bowling. She says some of his friends decide it's cool to look different from the jocks. They buy long black coats. But didn't you wonder why he wanted a trench coat? What was that about?
Well, I was the kind of kid who loved to look different. I mean, I was an art major.
She says she does notice something, that Dylan seems to be losing interest in good grades. He builds his own computer and spends more time alone in his room. And sometimes he's moody and irritable. But she now says, as she looks back over her life, she is making a big mistake. Her son is changing, but she writes off the changes as an adolescent phase.
Sometimes he would seem, distant or quiet, and I remember asking him, "Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? You seem so tired," and he'd stand up and say, "I've got a lot of homework, I need to go to bed."
And you let it go.
And I let it go. And that's the difference. I would dig, if it were me today, I would dig and dig and dig. I mean, I had all those illusions that everything was okay because, and more than anything else, because my love for him was so strong. I felt that I was a good mom, that he could talk to me about anything. Part of the shock of this was that learning that what I believed and how I lived and how I parented was an invention in my own mind.
She says she hopes other parents watching tonight will think about what a child can be hiding. It's the summer after Dylan's sophomore year, long before Columbine. She has a journal, and in it she's writing, "Things have been really happy this summer. Dylan is yucking it up, having a great time with friends." She has no idea her 15-year-old son has begun a secret journal of his own. And his first entry is this: thinking of suicide. "I hate my life. I want to die. I have a nice family, good house, couple of good friends, no girls. Nobody accepting me, even though I want to be accepted." He plays the Nine Inch Nails song Hurt and makes a list of all the people he loves who will never love him back.
Dylan?
You can see him in this video, his junior year at Columbine. He seems self-conscious, a little wistful, but talks about the future, the classes he'll take to help get into college.
So you get better chances after high school as far as college goes? Maybe a scholarship?
Okay, let me ask you this. Are you an independent learner or group learner?
Probably independent.
But at this point, we want to be very clear. 80 to 90% of depression can be treated. And even suicidal depression is not an explanation or a pathway to violence. But Dr. Gregory Fritz, president of the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, wants to warn parents tonight that suicidal depression is real and can strike any teen, anywhere.
Somewhere between 15 and 20% of high school kids say that they have thought about suicide in the past year.
Let me repeat, 15 to 20% of adolescents seriously consider suicide, and that's at least one child in every American classroom. Every 95 minutes, a young person will take their life. Fritz says a lot of loving parents can miss something serious, sure that changes are just a phase.
I've felt that as a parent myself, just, oh, please don't let it be so. I don't want to see it. Won't this go away? It's just a phase. The good news is, oftentimes it is. It can lead us to have blind spots.
On the internet, thousands of kids make secret confessions. A teenage girl who seems to smile.
Just like this eternal sadness.
A high school star who says teenagers are better than adults at hiding depression. They're so afraid of the stigma.
If you were to look at my life on the surface, you'd see a kid who was the captain of his basketball team, consistently on the honor roll and consistently at every party. You would say I wasn't suicidal, but you'd be wrong.
Later in this broadcast, we'll tell you more about spotting teenage depression. Dr. Fritz taking questions online. But more than 17 years ago, Sue Klebold says she knew so little about teen depression, thinking the big problem in her house was her older son grappling with drugs.
Were you distracted?
Well, of course, because we're human. I mean, we all have things that distract us. You can't say I was too busy to notice that my son was falling apart.
And heading down a path of destruction.
Could you have prevented what happened to Columbine?
If I had recognized that Dylan was experiencing some real mental distress, he would not have been there. He would have gotten help. I don't ever for a moment mean to imply that I'm not conscious of the fact that he was a killer, because I am.
A year and a half before the Columbine massacre, her son is a junior, a series of troubling events. He hacks into the school computer system with some friends. They're all suspended for 3 days. He scratches an epithet on the locker of a kid he thinks is taunting him. Then the big shock. On the same day he makes that video talking about his future, he and another kid break into a van, steal electronic equipment, and police make an arrest.
This is a felony. Two felony
It was terrible,
counts.
I know, absolutely. It was awful. And at the time, I thought that was the worst thing I could ever possibly experience.
Dylan's cold reaction after the arrest scared and shocked her. He acted as if he had done nothing wrong. She says she gave him one of her lectures, trying to reason with him.
I even talked about the 10 Commandments. I said it's wrong to steal. Under no circumstances is this right. And then we responded as most parents would. We took away privileges.
She says a lot of days he was affectionate, planning for the future, applying to colleges. She didn't know he was writing in his journal how he wanted to get a gun to use on a poor SOB, himself. One night, she's frustrated. He's not doing chores. He's withdrawn. She thinks he needs more discipline. She pushes him against the refrigerator.
And I said, you know, you've got to stop thinking of yourself. You've got to stop being so selfish. But, excuse me, but I gave him the old mom lecture. And then I said, and by the way, today's Mother's Day and you forgot it. And I don't remember how that confrontation ended. I just remember he softly said, Mom, please don't push me. I don't know how much I can control myself. It wasn't a scary thing. It was just him being nice to say, back off, please.
She says she blamed herself for pushing him too far.
And then he went out and he got me a gift. It was a little watering can with African violets in it. And I thought everything was fine because he was so sweet.
And inside, on his way to becoming a mass shooter. And there is no way to continue telling this story without going back to another little face in that class picture. A friend who was with him breaking into the van, Eric Harris.